The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Mets baseball. Past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko. It's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And the three of us, Marty Rose, Robert Cole, and myself, have been kind of laughing. It's like you laugh at a funeral or whatever, just to break the tension of the whole season has exploded. We get news today that Frazier's on the DL once again. Do either of you guys know what the extent of this current thing is? Robert?
No, I do not. I've been trying to find out, and I have not had a chance to.
Mert?
No, it's the extent, I have no idea, but it is a rib cage thing. So
okay, like an oblique.
That, yeah. So
all right,
until they get the MRI results, you don't know. Those things can be like a month or more.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and if the Mets report it as a month, it'll be 6 months.
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
Vis-a-vis Syndergaard, Cespedes, and more to their, not to make an excuse, you got medical science here. We're all in a test tube on some level. Who knows how an athlete recovers, how much they put in rehab-wise. It's impossible to predict sometimes. And there's the pain threshold. Everybody has a different pain threshold. I remember getting a paper cut and calling around to see if I could get into some sort of hospice. Just in case, I can't take much.
Well, you should have called up the Mets witch doctor. The witch doctor.
No. Oh, yes, I could just dial them up, and I'll take care of everything. I used to have Kevorkian on my speed dial until God rest his soul. Because
all Mets fans should have him on the speed dial right now.
Right. The whole franchise should have him on the speed dial.
Speaking of injuries, what happened to Reyes today?
Oh, he's hurt too?
I saw him out in like the third inning.
Yeah, I think.
Was he starting again for Rosario?
I think they did it.
No, he was starting at third base.
No, he was at third base for Frazier. They did a double switch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is that what they did?
They put Ty Kelly in, when they took out Wheeler and brought in Lugo. They were trying to get Wheeler through that inning because he was due up in the bottom of the inning.
Right.
And he had, 2 men on base. They had to take him out. He was already over 100 pitches in the 5th inning. So they did a double switch and put the one of those yo-yo guys up and down, Ty Kelly.
Yeah, Ty Cobb Kelly.
Ty Kelly.
Yeah. Reminds me of the story of the Kelly that was Leroy Kelly's brother. And he played on the Baltimore Orioles, and he was a pious, religious man, and he's walking up and down the dugout, and he bumps into Earl Weaver, and Weaver's this intense guy right in the middle of the game. And what was the expression? He says something about bringing Jesus into your life. He says, have you ever walked with Jesus? He says, have you ever walked with the bases loaded? That's what Weaver says to Kelly. Have you ever walked with the bases loaded? Anyway, Yes, Ty Kelly, which shows you their depth in the organization. And
or lack thereof.
Oh, lack thereof, yes. Just having Reyes on the 25-man roster at this stage of his career, or lack thereof, it is a big reflection on what's going on. They're not they could bring in some people and they could fill up that roster. So when injuries like this happen, you have guys like the Yankees. Not to use them as an example, but holy shit! If you look at their AAA ball club, most of them can be starting right now on the Mets.
But you also have to remember 3 years ago that wasn't the case. 3 years ago,
That's
the
true.
Yankees had one of the weakest farm systems, and they made some brilliant
that
trades.
Chapman Miller thing that getting Chapman back and getting all those prospects and Yobar and it worked out for him.
It sure did.
And there was an interesting conversation I had with Michael Duca, an official scorer, and he brought this up. Is it collusion if the Mets say DeGrom is going to be a free agent, as was Chapman? If they say to DeGrom, we're going to package you for a bunch of prospects, and then you're going to play out the rest of the season, and then come back. Is it collusion when?
No, because the buyer is aware of that. Okay, the team making the trade, okay, is
aware of the possibility, but he or she may not be aware of the certainty. Now, is assuring it. In other words, Chapman could have stayed. They could have had a chance to sign Chapman, but you're not colluding with your own player. He's on your roster. He's your guy. So you can't call it collusion. You could just call it strategy to the nth.
Yes, and it happens a lot. Okay, it happens a lot. I'm trying to remember with the Red Sox when it was who the heck was it? One of their pitchers, they traded him to Oakland a couple of years ago, Ralph.
It might have been Lester.
And everybody in Boston felt that they were going to re-sign him, except Lester got pissed off and he signed with the Cubs. But that was one of those deals where everybody said, yeah, it's been arranged, he's coming back, he'll go to Oakland, finish out the season, he'll be back. Well, it didn't work out that way. So there's never.
Okay, here's another thing I want to ask you. We were joking about it off the air. I seriously think that the Mets, you could say, well, if they stay healthy, we could always say that with any team, especially the Mets, of course. Best 4 starters in the National League, if not in baseball, arguably. And with that in mind, I'm going to ask Marty this because we haven't heard much of his voice this evening. Is it a possibility, at least a fathom of a hope, of keeping those 4 together? And I joked, in a way, kidding on the square, go out and get Machado and build around them with position players. You got great starters. You got Mejia coming back. You could package, say, guys who aren't working, like Conforto Smith. My God, to see him out there looking like nonchalanting stuff at first base, hitting 204, that's sickening. That Rosario has to be benched, that's sickening. So it ain't working in terms of the position players. But does that mean you have to break up the best pitching staff going. And if you kept Nemo, if you kept the catcher, if you signed Machado, and wait for Frazier to come back, and whatever, I won't even count on Cespedes anymore. Just like I don't even think of Wright anymore as a possibility. But I'd see if I couldn't package Conforto, Familia, and then sign and get some free agents in there. Get some young guys. Will Wilpon make an investment? Not look at it as an outgo, as an expense. Look at it as something that will help sell T-shirts, caps, TV, and keeping up with the Yankees in New York is paramount. They have to do that. They can't just play second sister for 3, 4, 5 years while they rebuild, and then who knows what they rebuild. You could rebuild and it doesn't work. I could remember a general manager years ago when we were kids, Mert, saying something like, I'm on the 7th year of a 5-year rebuilding plan.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't remember what general manager said that or had it said about him, but so rebuilding doesn't. And for crying out loud, we don't need. We want the future to be now for a number of reasons.
Including our advancing age.
That's what I wanted to say, but didn't want to say. And yes, it is an advancing age, and grateful that we're here to talk about
Commiserate.
What did Casey say? He said, I won't make the mistake of being 70 again.
Right.
They let him go at age 70. And to be a year older than that, I think, Robert, you're 71 as well. Am I correct?
In 2 weeks.
Oh, all right. Happy birthday, in case I missed that on Facebook. Reminds me of people whose birthday it is, who I never heard of. Don't you want to wish them a happy birthday? I would, but
I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, and they don't like me anyway for 12 legitimate reasons. Count 'em, boys. All right.
Hey, Marty.
Another day.
Hey, Marty, tell Ralph why the Wilponzis will not make an investment in Machado.
Well, when did they ever spend money? Look, the only time they spent money was on Cespedes, and they had so much pressure to do that because of what he did right after the trade that took them to the World Series on his back.
But people like that don't look at things always as spending money. They look at it as investing money. And that said, when do they spend money? No, they don't. And look where they are. They've got the second worst record in the National League East, and there's the Marlins, thank God. And they're a game and a half ahead of them. So if it's not working, my thing is, if it's not, do something else. Try something else that may work, may not work, but this isn't working. And
no, he's going to command such a high number, and not just that, but the number of years that he's going to ask for. I mean,
he's 26 years old. He's
older
proven.
Than that. Isn't he older than that?
No,
I think that's what they're talking about. What I heard today.
Harper is like 25, something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Machado is much older.
No, they're both about the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the only thing you could say is that his baseball age. I don't even know where he comes from or whose birth certificate or whatever.
Right.
I'm sure they have that. It's pretty tight nowadays.
But these guys are all asking for 10-year deals. I mean, like Cano did. And I don't see it. I just don't.
And you have another problem with Machado. He absolutely insists on being a shortstop. His actual rating as a shortstop since he's gone back to being a shortstop, is very, very poor.
Oh, really?
And yeah, he's got one of the worst metrics as far as defensive shortstops in the league.
Well, every team is going to take that into consideration, and if that doesn't, that may come back and help him, because that's going to lower, you would think, his worth, or what teams are going to offer based on that, based on the fact that he may insist on playing shortstop. And that brings me back to Jeter. I think the better shortstop when the Yankees got Rodriguez,
A-Rod, yeah.
I think he had much more range. I think if we're playing dice baseball with stats and stuff, it would have been a natural. Talking about human beings, talking about Jeter, New York, talking about this, that, and the other thing. I understand it, but logic doesn't always play a part in it, and business-wise, which brings us to, as I skip around in my stupor, the minor league, and I did have a brain fart right now. Who's the minor league guy who's the religious freak from the
Tim Tebow.
Quarterback? Pardon?
Tim Tebow.
Yes, Tim Tebow. Give him credit. Got to say this. He made the All-Star team in AA, and he is a serious candidate to come up to be put on the 40-man roster as I look at it, in September, and he may have a call-up. Marty, what do you think of that?
Well, if they can find the room on the 40-man, which really shouldn't be that difficult. You got so much garbage taking up space that look, I'm sure he excuse me. I'm sure he'll draw people. He will draw people. He always draws people wherever he goes. And I think he'll draw people in New York. He'll draw people on the road.
Yeah, and they're going to be out of it, so what the hell?
Well, yeah, because the stadiums are going to be empty in September.
Right.
So
might as well, assuming that they take the money and they put it back in the team, can't hurt.
No,
I'll go with that.
At that point, no.
At one time I said, if they ever call this guy up, I'm going to take all my Met gear and I'm just going to put it in a bonfire and just light it up.
In fact, I remember you saying that just before the season started, Ralph.
I did, and I thought about it for a long time. And every day I get up with the decision. I could play it out, play the option out, be a fan of the Braves or the Cubs or something like that. No, I can't do that. I can't just clear my browser in my head and all of a sudden I don't remember Elio Chacon playing shortstop. I can't. I can't. It's over for me. I'm too old to change. I'm just going to go with the flow. What the hell? It's a roster spot. But I'm still going to use this as an occasion to say that there may have been some phenom in the system who they didn't even look at as a phenom, didn't get a shot, didn't get some at-bats because of having Tebow, who, by the way, is going to be 30 if and when they ever bring him up.
Right.
So his window...
But in reality, though, he has not taken anything away from anybody. I mean, anybody who is anybody has gotten their shot. They didn't move him ahead of anybody. So up to this point.
No, actually, but keeping him, really, they had to move him ahead of somebody, but just by keeping him, like when he had that year at A-ball where I don't remember what his stats were. It encouraged me to say what I said at the beginning of the year, and
But in reality, Ralph, when you look at the rosters, okay, and I had a good friend, Kelly Heath, who played a little bit Major League Baseball, a long-time minor league manager. He was an A-ball manager for the Phillies for many years. He said,
I do remember that. Was Heath an A or a Yankee?
He was there was a different Heath, okay, that you're probably thinking of. But Kelly Heath, I think, played like 1 or 2 games for the Phillies way back.
Okay.
Anyway, he said
it was a Heath who was
A-ball
a catcher
manager.
with. Yeah. Okay.
You're thinking about the catcher Heath.
Yes.
Okay, this different guy. But he said that there's so many guys that they just use to fill rosters because there are so many positions, in all the different, especially the low minors, that, you fill guys in. A lot of the guys from the islands they use early in the year, and it's not until the draft when, they're looking to fill some of these positions. So there's so many positions. I don't think anybody really got passed over, especially in the Mets system.
Unfortunately, which makes it more of a dog and pony show then, for that reason.
But everybody says, okay, and in fact, when Marty and I were talking to the guy from the Binghamton, remember Marty?
Right.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy.
That was a great interview, by the way.
Everybody who plays with Tebow loves him. He's a great mentor. He's a great teammate. He helps the other players. I mean, there's a certain value to that too.
Absolutely. And he may go on to be a minor league coach like Keith. And those guys are incredibly, A-ball managers are incredibly underpaid. They're the ones that do the actual coaching. They break these kids into organized baseball. They give them work habits.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
Give them goals. And unfortunately, it's another disparity in Major League Baseball. You get coaches that make not to take anything away from these guys, but they don't really coach. And the coaching,
not at the Major League level, no.
No, and they don't teach at the Major League level. They basically, they're like hall monitors.
Yeah, they're motivators, they're babysitters, kind of like a shoulder to lean on once in a while. But if once you make the major leagues, I mean, you're not coaching anymore.
Yeah, and these guys have no respect for coaching once they make the major leagues because they're making much more money than these coaches ever made in their entire career in the big leagues. And that's all what today's generation respects anyway. It's
how many zeros are at the end of the contract?
Yep, absolutely. And the reason they don't hit and run is because they can't go to the table and negotiate hit and run. The reason they don't get the runner over is because, your batting average looks less. You hit a ground ball to second base, you got the guy over in the scoring position. You may win a ball game, but it doesn't hold any sort of beans in contract negotiation. All it does is homers. That's all they care about right now. And closers. Just that 99-mile-an-hour fastball. And but to get back to reality in the Mets, still say, will you guys disagree that we don't have the 4 best starters in baseball, arguably, health-wise?
Potentially, I guess. We have yet to see them all healthy at the same time.
We do. We see them now. We see Mats Syndergaard is coming back. He's
going to pitch this weekend.
Yeah, he pitched in Brooklyn, no problems. And he's still Thor, don't forget. So let's say he's not the Thor anymore. Second to DeGrom, best ERA in the National League, certainly. No support whatsoever, doesn't make the All-Star team. Disgraceful.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, Blake Snell of the Rays, okay, best ERA in the American League, he didn't make the All-Star team. 12 wins.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. But getting back to, the four best pitchers, I would love to keep them together. But how do you get better elsewhere if you don't trade?
By opening up the pocketbooks, and I think the man has an obligation. I was the guy that gave him a hall pass. Once they signed Cespedes, I was the guy that gave Alderson and Wilponzi a hall pass for a long, long time, getting to the point where if it doesn't work, open the pocketbooks, for crying out loud. It's not even their money. It's not even, it's just monopoly money.
Yeah, but then you hear Jason Bay, then you hear Bobby Bonilla. Each time they've tried to make a big splash, even Cespedes, okay, they may try to make a big splash for Cespedes. Where is he? Okay, and it's
Well, he did lead them to the World Series.
Yes, he did, and I for one was all for them re-signing him. I thought they had to re-sign him. They did.
I was for them re-signing Bruce. I was for them getting.
Oh, Frazier. So was I. I was ecstatic about that. I was ecstatic about the Frazier deal. None of that's none of that's helped. So, you gotta, they're going to be a little leery of spending money unless they have some sort of a guarantee coming back. You sign a guy like Machado, you have to worry.
But if you have these four guys, you almost have to not break it up. And if you're going to not break it up, I can imagine what he'd do in New York for attendance. You get him it would go nuts. It would just almost put them in the running. It's so much of it is, what are the Yankees doing? And so much for the Yankees, what are the Mets doing? It's an anomaly, really. There's no other city that depends, and there are a lot of the White Sox out here in the Bay Area. There are two competing. None of them compete like the Yankees and the Mets. So we'll see.
So if they sign one guy, no matter how good he is, I mean, let's face it.
All right, well, let's say that one guy could be, if not Machado, how does the name Bryce Harper sound to you guys?
Yeah, well, there's absolutely zero chance of that. He could wind up in the freaking Bronx,
I don't think that's going to happen either. I think he's more apt to be wind up in Los Angeles.
I don't know.
All right, well then why can't, is there any way we could get Puig? He's a guy I really like, very talented.
Oh, okay. Puig is nothing more than a younger version of Cespedes. Gets hurt, okay, has his moments where he's brilliant, and then when he's not going well, you don't even know he's around. And
he just got hurt the other day.
Yeah, I would stay as far away from him as I could.
Okay, just a name that comes to mind. Did we talk about Mejia's coming back?
I haven't yet.
I guess he must be dead because it was a lifetime suspension. I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, Gary pulled a yogiism on that. He said lifetime suspensions aren't as long as they used to be.
well, maybe he left and came back. Maybe he got reincarnated, Mr. Henry.
Yeah. How good can he be anyway? I mean, with the long layoff, and he was never any good without the juice. How good is he going to be? I mean, let's face it. He's going to be in the minors if they sign him at all. So.
And now,
that's true.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Mets real quick here, and that piece of shit Dominic Smith is up, hitting 194 with 1 home run and 1 RBI. Did you see the play? He almost blew the game in the first game.
I saw that. So that's what I was referring to. Yes, he just casually throws the ball away. It's disgusting with him.
He's a dead man walking.
Yeah. And he doesn't look like the same Dominic Smith. I mean, losing all that weight, it looks like he lost muscle.
Well, he lost everything around the middle, which is, where all the weight was. So.
Yeah.
But he looks like he'd rather be back in Las Vegas right now. You look at his body language.
Yeah. And to give him Clendenin's number is almost insulting.
Yeah.
I don't.
As we used to say, he couldn't carry Don Clendenin's jock.
No, he couldn't.
I want to see what this kid Kazmarski looks like. He's finally got into the lineup. He's been sitting on the bench for
with Rosario, did he just take a nosedive? Is he? Is his habits not?
I just don't think he was ready to come up when they brought him up.
Okay.
And he made a couple of plays in that Rays series that, cost the Mets, especially on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Plays that he should have made that he didn't. He just doesn't look like he's anywhere near what they were expecting.
No.
Very scary because those two were the best of the group, and there's not much else.
Well,
Nito, the catcher.
Got to have Alonso and McNeil. They're the only two guys that are doing anything. And the thing on McNeil, of course, which we've talked about, is that he's 26 already.
Right.
But he also missed the 2016 season with an injury. So who knows? Some guys, mature late.
Well, yeah, they're going to need a second baseman next year.
Yeah.
That's where he plays. So. Who knows?
Well, I think they're going to need a second baseman this year because I'm sure, anybody shows any interest at all in Cabrera, they're going to flip him.
I would think so.
Yeah, that would open something up, and bring McNeil up and see what he's got.
Okay.
Same thing
Before we close, we have to take our hats off to Flores. This guy has had 5 walk-offs as a Met.
Yep.
He's been very clutch, let's face it.
Yes.
Guy that
starting with the night that he got traded and he wasn't.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Never gets a chance to play regularly. I don't know. I guess he's just not that good at any one position. And he's a slow runner, so he can't play the outfield. But for what he is, he's good at what he is,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Utility man, he's really good. So
I'd like to see him play more first. And I think that's going to happen pretty soon. Because if we see their body languages, coaches have to see their body languages. Managers have to see their body language. The more pressure on the manager, they're going to start putting it on the team. And there's a good possibility that Callaway will just not finish out the year. It's just been a disaster. How much do you put on him? Start with you, Robert.
Well, I'm one that usually tries not to blame the manager, but things have gotten so bad, and he's done some things that really make you scratch your head. And this team is in such a condition right now that you almost have to do something big. And Sandy's gone. Okay, so you're going to bring in a new general manager most likely. I would pull the plug right now, have one of the coaches finish it out, and then your new general manager picks a new manager. Otherwise, you're going to be in that same old dog and pony show where you have a new GM with a manager that he didn't pick himself. So
now I'm going to read Marty's mind. Do you think Wilponzi's going to pay for Callaway's contract and a new manager? Is that what you were thinking, Marty?
Yeah, I was definitely thinking that. Did he get 3 years or 4? Probably 3, right?
I think probably it's 3 with an option.
Mm-hmm. Well,
a club option.
I believe so. I think he starts the season next year, and I think the leash is shorter. I don't think they're going to let him go in the middle of the season, and I don't think they're going to probably let him go at the end of the year. I think he'll be back, like I said, with a shorter leash next year, especially with Sandy in all likelihood not coming back at all, and he's the guy that hired him. So
right.
Yeah.
See, it's just that how do you bring in a general manager? Okay. And you say, well, this is the manager you've got to have. That's so tough to get, a good general manager to come in.
Well, they have their Riccardi.
Their three-headed monster.
Yes. That decision, absolutely.
Rico is the one that's in charge, though.
Who is Rico?
Yeah, so you got Jeff Wilpon, who is not a baseball man. And is he going to be making the final decisions?
Financial ones. I don't think he's going to make, player decisions. No, but he's going to make the financial decisions. And
he will. And I don't think
like
anybody could get the money out of the Wilpons that Alderson could. He would go to the well, and he did it 2 or 3 times. Cespedes, Bruce, can't think of who else.
Those guys were like kind of left on the shelf guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were not
those guys.
Yeah,
and they
got
them
top shelf guys.
Pretty much on the cheap.
Yeah.
Vargas was another one.
Yeah.
Well, that's what.
But I have to admit that I was all for getting Vargas. He bombed, but how do you know? And they certainly tried to improve the bullpen and didn't.
Oh, with the Savior, yeah.
Yeah.
Bullpens are very tough. So many of these guys, good 1 year, bad the next, good 1 year, bad the next. I mean, and when you're good, you get overworked. So next year you got nothing. I mean, that happens a lot.
Oh yeah.
You run the guy in every day. He's got like 80 appearances or more, and he's doing really well.
And he's never pitched that much in his
life. Anybody out the next year because his arm's dead. That's why.
Right.
Happens a lot. Oswald looks better tonight so far. I'll have to say that.
Yeah, he's in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, although, still I'm a little surprised that he doesn't get it up over 92 for his size. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he is.
So whatever. If he's got
all right, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a good show. It's cathartic to talk to you as a Met fan.
I don't know whether to take offense or be happy about that comment, Ralph.
I don't know what to say. There's just the only positive is when they traded Harvey, they got a pretty decent catcher in return. And if that's the only positive of the year, that's the way it is this year. So.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you, Marty Rose. Thank you, Robert Cole. It's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The show is New York Mets, past, present, future. We had a past. Our present sucks. And our future is wrapped up in what the Wilponzi will do. I'm just hoping that they can modify what isn't working and perhaps turn it into something that does work. Don't look at spending money as an expense. In this case, look at it as an investment, and they might be better off. But what do I know? Thank you, gentlemen, and thanks for listening, everybody. I'm going to say it real quick. Do me a big solid. Box up some new and/or used children's books, lightly used children's books, and take them to the Head Start program for all the right reasons. Kids need to read, and Head Start needs your help. So wherever you live, take the books down to Head Start, get a neighborhood program together, get as many books to the kids that need it the most, and maybe we can turn this country around a little bit. Thank you, everybody. Be well.